You're listening to the Travis Makes Money podcast presented by GoHighLevel.com. For a free 30-day trial of the best all-in-one digital marketing software tool on the planet, just go to GoHighLevel.com/Travis. What's going on, money makers? Welcome back to the Travis Makes Money podcast, where it's our mission to help you make more money. Today on the show, we're talking about how entrepreneurs can create better content with my new friend, slash good friend, Amanda Northcutt. Amanda is a six-time executive with 22 years of business experience in consulting, startups, and marketing strategy. She ditched her high-paying Silicon Valley role a few years ago, seeing creators with so much potential who simply need a little CEO-level expertise to reach new paradigms of success. Her passion is supporting everyday creators to build generational wealth through recurring revenue. So Amanda co-founded, is now CEO of Level Up Creators and Level Up Creator School, where she shares all her C-suite secrets with her growing community. So a little background here is that Amanda, if you recognize her, she was actually on the show a month or two ago. And basically, it was my fault that I ended up being a few minutes late to the call. And then I felt terrible because we had to cut off the conversation in the middle of some really good stuff. So I was like, Amanda, please go back to my calendar and pick up a new spot so that we can keep this conversation going. So I'm super stoked to have her back. But before we jump into this part two of the conversation, if you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur using multiple softwares for marketing, email, courses, membership communities, forums, calendars, SMS, reputation management, et cetera, you might be doing it wrong. You owe it to yourself to check out High Level's all-in-one platform for marketing automation so you can get back to focusing on what you know how to do best. They've created an amazing tool over there that's somehow as simple as it is capable. So join 3 million other business owners and go to GoHighLevel.com/Travis for a 30-day trial to see what High Level can do for you. That's GoHighLevel.com/Travis. Amanda, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Travis, thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here.
So I know we talked a little bit more about your background and stuff coming from Silicon Valley, which I thought was really fascinating. There's not a lot of people who, once they're in that ecosystem, decide to leave themselves without like getting kicked out, essentially. And you were one of those people. So I loved talking about the background. If you're listening right now and you did not listen to the first episode, just search Amanda Northcutt in our feed and go listen to that one to hear more about her background. But we left off like right when we were starting to talk a little bit more about Level Up Creators. So just as a refresher, tell us exactly what 30-second overview of kind of what we talked about before, and then move into what Level Up Creators does for people.
Yeah, definitely. So I think what we talked about before was just kind of how to make money as a subject matter expert, right? Like that's kind of the guise under which my company fits. And so Level Up Creators helps coaches and consultants build boutique coaching and consulting firms. And typically these folks, like their primary platform is LinkedIn. They're business people. They're coming from corporate, or they've got one foot out the door in corporate, or they have a fledgling consulting or coaching firm that is based on the expertise that they've acquired from a couple decades in corporate. And are struggling to kind of like achieve liftoff with their consulting or coaching firm. So that's when we come in and build or rebuild these small companies from scratch, again, based on expertise. But we're like kind of the perfect marriage partner because we're full stack ops, and we marry that full stack ops with subject matter expertise.
Perfect, which is like the thing that most people in that world are missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that like brutal Silicon Valley like rigorous product testing, rigorous operation schedule, like that type of stuff is what's missing from a lot of these creator type businesses, and is exactly the thing that they need. So Level Up Creators is now the solution that you've built for that segment of people. Tell me a little bit about your like the person that's most ideal for you to work with. Like are these people who just, hey, I have an idea and I've never made any money doing this? Or is it more like I've already made $500,000 over the last 3 or 4 years doing this thing, but I have no idea how to operationalize and scale this thing?
Yeah, it's definitely more the latter, and it's also somewhere kind of in between. So These are people who are 40 to 60 years old. They're staring down kind of the last third of their career. They're looking for generational wealth, legacy, impact, and they want to wake up and do something that they love for the next 10 years. And so we're designing businesses with all 4 of those things in the forefront. So it's our job to, we have inbound now, and partner marketing is kind of the way that we roll. We have a pretty small audience by design, and referral-based motion works really, really well for us, and coincidentally works really well for the businesses we build for our clients. So our business is a mirror, and we're always doing research and development and testing really, really rigorously, to your point, before we roll anything out to our clients.
Give me an idea of the types of industries or niches that you serve. Is this something where it's like any, like, whatever, dog training versus,
Yeah.
podcasting, or is it more like, hey, you have a specific business expertise, we're trying to
Yes.
really help the business niche more?
Yeah, more like the business expertise piece. So
Okay.
expert in potentially finance, sales, marketing, something around HR. We have executive coaches, professional speakers,
Okay.
authors. We do have a client right now that's an expert in like women's health. And so that's like a little bit of a oddball, but the way that she
Okay.
wants to take her business forward, and it works very, very well for us. Real estate investment experts, YouTube experts, AI experts. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's going to be like business or business adjacent primarily.
Selfish question for you. Is it possible, like, is there ever a thing where people are teaching something and you're looking at it and you're going like, I don't know what type of opportunity is going to be here for scaling this thing? And I'm asking it from a very selfish perspective because I keep toying with the idea of getting back into podcast training. I did that for a really long time.
Mm.
And I keep just like going back to like, there's so many podcast trainers out there. And it's just like, I just don't, I don't know. I don't know how much meat is left on the bone. And maybe that's a dumb question, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
No, I think that's a really, really interesting question, Travis, because well, if the market is fully saturated, that's one thing. If you have some direct competitor, that's one thing. But what we really find with the creator economy and the research that's come out year over year is that there's a very interesting thing that our brains are doing as we follow our favorite creators. So Gen X, millennials, we have 3 to 5 of our top creators, like top creators on LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever our platform of choice is. Our brain naturally gravitates toward 3 to 5 of those people. And we have such higher affinity, that know, like, and trust factor for those 3 to 5 creators or thought leaders or influencers, depending on, again, the platform typically. And if those people offer services that solve painful, pervasive, urgent, expensive problems, like if you're selling digital product or consulting services or a group coaching program or a book or whatever the case may be, our brains basically put like horse blinders around our eyes. And it's like we only have eyes for those people. And
Hmm.
it's such an interesting sort of neurological, psychological phenomena thing. But okay, if you are in a handful of people's top 3 to 5 creators, and then you do a very specific thing, you solve painful, pervasive, urgent, expensive problems for a very specific ICP, ideal customer persona, and you have a methodology that gets people from that pain space to solution space, and you are demonstrating your expertise by talking about your proprietary methodology, your intellectual property here. And if it has a cute name, you get bonus points, right? So if you're a person that your followers have high affinity for, and you have a methodology and kind of clarity around who you are and who you serve and how you get them from point A to point B, you are going to hit home run after home run after home run. So it's like finding your people, nailing the offer, and remembering that even in a market that feels quite saturated, how many customers do you actually need? And that depends on like how up market or down market you're going to go, like a course or a challenge or some digital asset being very down market in this instance, whereas one-on-one, consulting and coaching is going to be, and done for you services are going to be kind of at the top of the
Hmm.
product ladder there.
You said painful, urgent, expensive. One
Painful,
more.
for pervasive, urgent, and
Pervasive.
expensive. The knife is in, somebody's turning it, and like you're going to bleed out if you don't solve this problem.
Does it need to check all four of those boxes in order to work well?
Um, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
top of mind, urgent. I mean, pain, like some of that's redundant. It's just like I say that over and over and again. It really resonates with people because it's
Yeah.
not, what I'm trying to communicate to you is that if you are selling vitamins
Yeah.
instead of Vicodin, you are not going to make sales,
Yeah.
especially if you're in a B2C environment. Like the discretionary funds are limited, especially like right now. And we're in a dicey economic time a little bit. And so
Mhm.
people are putting their wallets away.
Yeah.
And so it's very important that you're solving something that has a very clear outcome. And I call those like value outcomes and transformation. So it's like what's the quantitative, qualitative, and then psychological pieces that you're solving for your very specific customers. And I'm very big on like going narrow and deep, which is scary as hell for so many consultants and coaches because you're nervous. You're in a transition point at that point, and you're probably used to being all things to all people and just
Mhm.
saying yes, and you're getting business from your network. But everybody that comes to us is pretty much like gone through their network. They're selling things that are bespoke, like they're reinventing the wheel for every single one of their clients. They're trading their time for money and are so tired of working 12 hours a day. It's worse than their corporate gig. They need help
Yeah.
productizing services, getting extraordinary clarity on the, main facets of their business.
Do you typically encourage people to go like low ticket, high ticket, mid ticket? You want to be doing a community, or you want to be doing a done for you service, or are you kind of just like, this is a case by case basis? Let's work through exactly what's going to work for this particular person.
Yeah, it is pretty much on a case by case basis, but we are really firm in high ticket, high touch, low volume,
Okay.
and productized services. And I'm my kind of special sauce, if you will, is I'm able to extract a tremendous amount of information from each of our clients and kind of lay all the ingredients out on the table. What do they have
Yeah.
experience in, expertise in? What are they passionate about? Who do they love serving? Like, what could they get up and do potentially every day for the next 10 years? And that's always kind of like what we're solving for. So let's get it all out on the table, and we know the right questions to ask, the information to gather. And then we're kind of restructuring based on, again, what their financial need is, what their lifestyle architecture requirements, and the legacy and impact they're looking to leave in the last third of their career. So with what we have out on the table, how can we reorder these things into a new recipe to help this person, achieve what they're trying to achieve? So that's typically going to look like productized services, but we're way up market in terms of one-on-one coaching and consulting primarily, and advisory, like advisory positions, advisor to the board seats, speaking, authoring, intellectual property creation and protection, things like that, licensing, curriculum, certifications. So
Yeah.
it's like, what are the highest leverage opportunities with your intellectual property? And based on like that combined with the life that you want to live and your 10-year goals, that's kind of where I'm able to figure out what the business is.
What if you're talking to somebody who's like, I don't want to be doing this in 10 years. It's a means to an end for me. Do you
Mhm.
just tell them, well, this isn't for you then? Or do you say, well, we have to build the business differently?
It totally depends. I mean, we have some clients that are looking to sell their businesses in 3 to 5 years, and so we are building toward very specific ends when like that's the goal.
Yeah.
Typically, though, there's a couple of different ways we can run businesses, right? We can run them and own them ourselves. We can own them and have someone else run them, or somewhere in between, or we can exit completely. And ultimately, we build businesses so that each of our clients retains complete optionality toward any of those ends. And we have all sorts of little frameworks, like you should be spending 80% of your time doing only the highest leverage activities of the business. So let's identify what those are, figure out what the other activities are to run the business, and then how we're going to automate, AIFI, outsource, bring someone on to do. So that's kind of how we think
Yeah.
about kind of slicing and dicing operations.
What is the core lead gen that you're helping people with? It seemed, and this is just from my perspective, the people that I know in the space, even the people that are
Mhm.
crushing in the coaching space, doing $2-3 million months.
Yeah.
I've had private conversations with several people recently where they're feeling a squeeze when it comes to acquisition of new clientele, and margins are being decimated. And this could just be for specific niches or industries, but that's why I'm asking you, because you see so many different ones that are
Yeah.
coming through. Is lead gen something you spend a lot of time on inside of the coaching group? And if so,
Big
like,
time.
what's the kind of ways that you're encouraging people to go about generating more leads?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I mean, coaches need to be on the forefront of AI, because if you're not, you are going to lose your job to AI, because people are turning to ChatGPT left and right for life coaching.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
so, again, it's you being one of those top 3 to 5 folks, and then having a specific proprietary methodology that you talk about all the time, and then you've got your receipts. I provide these value outcomes and transformation. Here's the case studies, statistics, and testimonials that I have to prove it from these like real, actual humans that are Googleable. So that's really, really important that you've got your positioning, your ICP, your methodology, your product ladder, your offers, your pricing. All that has to be right before any of the client acquisition stuff is going to work. And again, you got to push further into white space, like what is available for me to go and capture. as AI is taking a lot of jobs. So if you're a coach and you're not on the AI train, I just said what's going to happen. It is going to happen. So lead generation, what's working? It is relentless dedication to experimentation and rapid iteration that ends up making the difference for people. So put on your like fifth grade science hat. We need to understand, we have clarity on those other things I already talked about. And then it is what ponds do we need to be fishing in effectively in order to find our ICP? And if you don't have an ICP well defined, you're talking to everybody and therefore you're talking to nobody. So find out where your people are in line and what is your online and what is your fastest path to that. Like, who is the gatekeeper between you and those people? So we're really big on all manner of partner marketing. Webinars still work. They're called master classes now. So that's still, there's a right way and a wrong way to do this for sure. But for authority building, that's really, really important, as is one-on-one outreach, like creating literal lead lists and then building relational equity with the individuals that you want to pursue. And you're looking for high leverage relationships too. Like the partner marketing thing is really, if I had to say, if you had to do one marketing activity and one marketing activity alone that had to feed your business until you died, it would be partner marketing.
Really?
So I
Wow.
think, yeah, for sure, because these people, other people have already aggregated your ICP online.
Yeah.
It's like shooting fish in a barrel, right? Instead of like open sea fishing or whatever, like super, super different.
Yeah.
So I would encourage you to map out kind of your ecosystem and figure out where your people are and
How do
how to
you
get to them.
how do you structure some of these partnership marketing deals? It's I get hit up all the time for these things, and I
Mm,
basically say no to all of them.
mm,
How do you get people to say yes? Like, how are you structuring the deal? What can you do to, what can you do to pitch it in a way that's basically something other than, hey, you've taken 8 years to build this audience. I want it. You know what I mean? It's like the ultimate self-serving pitch to be like, I know you've
oh
taken
yeah.
dedicated a decade of your life to build up this
Mm-hmm,
audience who really know, like, and trust you. And I know
mm-hmm,
you don't know me, but I want to come sell them high ticket stuff and make money off of them. Are you wanting to do that? Like, how are you structuring these? And what's like kind of the methodology for delivering that vehicle? Like, is it joint webinars? Is it going live with somebody? Is it a podcast
mm-hmm.
interview? Is it all the
Yep.
above?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, cold pitching someone like that is a terrible idea. It's super bush league, super tacky. My clients are really, really upmarket. They are legitimate, highly intelligent, already successful people. They're just in a transition to something else.
Hmm.
So we are looking for peers. Like, we got to map out the ecosystem and we are looking for the fastest path to that person. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is particularly helpful with this. And then we're working on some proprietary AI tooling to further that. It's, we're all familiar with this like 7 degrees from Kevin Bacon, I guess, if you're a certain age or older, like I am. But basically, you're probably 7 or fewer degrees away from any person in the world.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, so figure out how you're connected to that person or how you can become connected to that person. And you need to build relational equity. Brene Brown, I've taken a concept of hers and sort of morphed it, but it's like putting marbles in the jar. You have to put marbles in the jar before you can take any marbles out of the jar, right? So don't go cold pitch someone that is in a very self-serving way. You have to get to know them. You have to build hopefully affinity from them to you.
Yeah.
Don't go pitch like you're not going after like Gary V, for this kind of a situation. Find a peer that you have something you can offer to, right? This is a giving thing, right? This is connection, community, and collaboration
Yeah.
in that order. So how can you be a helpful person to them? Can you go ahead and start doing that? And then they'll see that you're doing that. Sign up for their newsletter, reply to their newsletter and talk about specific concepts, listen to podcast interviews they've been on, review their podcast, send them a DM about something that was meaningful to you in a podcast episode, comment on their social media posts, repost them with intelligent content, like get on their radar by working,
Yeah.
figure out what you have to offer. And then there's almost always, if you're finding peers or people who are 1 or 2 steps ahead of you as opposed to 100 steps ahead of you, there's almost always a mutually beneficial exchange of something to be
Sure.
had, whether it is money or you consult for them on a specific area of their business because that's your area of expertise in exchange for it could definitely be a webinar or masterclass or like guesting in someone's community. It could be like a newsletter takeover. Social media series could definitely be a live, could be a YouTube video, or just, a reel, any kind of asset like that. But whatever works for your audience and theirs. But that's pretty unique per person. So it's
Yeah.
like, what do I have? I have salt, you have firewood, like
Yeah.
let's
Right. Right.
figure
Right.
out.
Yeah. And this is also kind of speaks to why you were recommending people start at kind of the higher end of the value ladder, right? Like with these,
Yep.
because if unless you are already somebody who has a 500,000 followers and your peer is somebody
Mhm.
who also has a 500,000 followers,
Yep.
it's going to be really difficult to do like a $49 a month
Yep.
community or to sell a
Yes.
$200 course or something like that.
Yes.
It's going to be infinitely more difficult because even if you get the yes from them, it's like, cool, we sold one. You know what I mean? It's like, so I did 4 months of work to make $150. Like, really, this is really cool, whereas
Yeah.
if you have a 10, 15, 20, 25K consulting package that moves the needle for a, $28 million a year business, and you get one of those from 4 months of work, it's like, okay, well,
Mhm.
that made a lot of sense now. So it's probably better
Yes.
to start at that higher end of the value ladder and then work your way down the
Mhm.
value ladder as you have more profit from the business to be able to dump into advertising at scale to be able to
Yeah.
pull in those like lower ticket buyers, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I forgot to mention podcast guesting. That's a really, really big one, especially for high ticket stuff. And
Yeah.
so that is in an intimate environment. I'm not talking about like the most massive podcast in the world or anything. Again, you're looking for peers, like be rooted in on the earth here with everyone
Oh
else.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you for
um,
saying that because I ran a guest booking agency for several years as well as a guest
mhm.
booking software. And that was the number one thing that I had to sit with
Yep.
everybody on sales calls with to be
Yep.
like, no, I can't get you on Joe Rogan. No, I can't get you on Mel Robbins. No,
Yep.
I can't get you on Lewis Howes. Like
Hmm.
it's not going to work. I know you're good at what you do. Like I know
Hmm.
you just had a whatever 8-figure exit. Like I'm not trying to downplay the success that you've had in the field. You just have to understand it's a supply demand thing. It's like I as a podcaster and my show isn't massive. It's better than 99% of shows in terms of like raw download numbers, but it's not massive. And I get 250, maybe 300 pitches a month for people to come on my show.
Oof.
The sheer volume that comes through like Diary of a CEO or Modern Wisdom or Lewis Howes or Mel Robbins or any of these
Yeah.
top podcasts is into the thousands. The odds of you, and they only have like 8 slots available for that month. The
Yeah.
odds of you like it doesn't, it's not going to work. So you have to reframe your idea of success here
Mhm.
and be okay. Like if you're moving into this space for the first time, to your point from what you said earlier, it's like you're dealing with really smart people who are accomplished, they have money, they have seen success, and they're moving into a new field. It's like if you're moving into a new field, you have to be willing to do the work to move
Mhm.
yourself up in that new field. And sometimes people can't do that. I find that it's really, I was listening to Naval talk about this the other day, and he was talking about that the most successful people that he knows are the people who are willing to humble themselves and start over in a new field, and they don't care about the status
Mhm.
that they lose. They don't care about the new shit sandwich they have to eat. They just don't care about any of that. They want to do this thing, so they're going to do this thing, and they're going to put in the work
Mhm.
to do this new thing, just like they did the previous thing that they did. I
Mhm.
find that a lot of people struggle with that, especially if they are accomplished people.
Yeah, you have to remember that what got you here won't get you there.
Yeah.
And it's also, frankly, being on smaller, more niche podcasts works better for high ticket service offerings on this like one-to-one level. Because all of a sudden, if I was a guest on like Mel Robbins podcast or Tim Ferriss podcast, I immediately am like one of them in most people's minds. And
Mm-hmm.
that's like less approachable, less
Untouchable.
accessible,
Yeah.
less relatable. And
Yeah.
like, that's not what I'm going for at all. Our whole brand is built around extraordinary competence and also relatability. Like we're a very, very smart organization. We actually know what the hell we're doing,
Yeah.
and we do have receipts to prove it, and we guarantee our results. And so that's pretty strong. Like I'm not screwing around here, but I'm also a human, just like you. Like I'm a mom and like
Yeah.
live in a house, and I'm a normal person.
Well, I gave this example all the time. We had a client one time that he has a franchise. He owns not a single franchise. He's the actual franchisor.
Yeah.
So his goal was to sell more franchises. So we were like, okay, we'll get to work getting you booked on all these different business podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And because he had a decent online brand, we got him booked on like a really big business show. And
Nice.
in the business space, it's probably, the show is probably getting like 40,000 downloads an episode, which for business specifically is like top,
Yeah.
0.1% of
Yeah.
business probably.
Yeah.
And so we got him on that show, and he sold a franchise, maybe two franchises on that show. Massive
Yep.
show, big
Mm-hmm.
for credibility. We were happy about the win. But then we also got him booked on another show, and that show was specifically about the franchise industry, and it got about 500 downloads an episode. So, 1/80th of the size of the audience or something like that.
Yeah.
And he sold almost 10 franchises on that one podcast, because there's like franchise groups that listen to that podcast to learn about new concepts so they can buy 8 stores and go
Mhm.
open them and take over a whole region. So he sold a package of like 8 to one group and then sold another couple to another person. And it was
Wow.
like, that's exactly what we were talking about. It's the power of being in that niche space where you're solving a real problem for a few hundred people, and not
Mhm.
being, again, it's the status driven ego play to want to go get booked on Mel Robbins. And I get it. I understand it. And in your mind, that's the only podcast that you know. So if when you get presented a show that you've never heard of before, you're like, oh, well, they should be paying me, type of a thing. And it's like, okay, well, you're starting over here, bro. Like, let's simmer down. You know what I mean?
Super
That's
down.
some
Yeah.
proper expectations. Oh man. But
Perfect
Amanda,
example.
I appreciate you so much for coming on, for taking the time again to allow me to make up for my mess up last time and come on and explain a little bit more about the creator side of things. Because even if you have no interest in building a creator type community or creator type info product offer or anything like that, you still got to be a creator as an entrepreneur these days. And
Yep.
if not, you're probably losing out on money. So if you have not yet, please be sure to go check out Amanda Northcutt and all the things that she's doing at Level Up Creators. Where's the best place for people to go, Amanda?
Yeah. Finding me on LinkedIn is great. And then our website is welevelupcreators.com.
welevelupcreators.com, or go check out Amanda Northcutt on LinkedIn and consume some of the content that she's putting out over there. Amanda, thank you again for taking the time. Everybody else listening, remember, money only solves your money problems, but it's a little bit easier to solve the rest of your problems if you got some money in the bank. So let's solve that problem first here on the Travis Makes Money podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time. Peace out.